Hey Book Dragons, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I just recently finished reading it, and I did this as a buddy read with my friend Danielle over at Bookcara and Fina over at Fina Reads. And this has been quite the book. So I'm going to get into a few things here, but first I want to let you know the structure of this video. There will be timestamps in the description below so that you can skip to wherever you feel is necessary for you. I am going to start the video off with a spoiler-free section. And then I am going to talk about spoilers. So I will have that clearly marked in the timestamps if you want to skip the spoilers and skip straight to the end just to hear my final thoughts on everything and my rating for everything. And when I say everything, I'm including the movie review because I did watch the movie after reading the book. So in the timestamps you will find the spoiler-free section, the spoiler section, and the movie section, which is going to be spoilers for the most part. So just wanted to let you guys know about that, and let's get down to it. So I was very hesitant to read this book for the longest time. I am a very emotionally aware person, we'll put it that way. And I had been told by several friends that this is probably a book that I wanted to avoid reading, especially as a parent. And I can see why. I can definitely see why. But Fina and Danielle wanted to read it together, and I thought, well, okay, that will at least be bearable because I will have other people reading it with me and struggling through the emotions of it together. So, and that was helpful. I did find that helpful, but I did still keep a tissue box close at hand, just in case. And I did end up needing it. Pet Sematary is a book by Stephen King, as you are probably aware, and it follows a young doctor and his family as they have moved to Ludlow, Maine. He has taken up a position in the infirmary at a university, and so his family has come with him, his wife Rachel, their young daughter Ellie, and their toddler Gage. And they've moved into this old house next to an older man and his wife named Judd and Norma Crandall. And right off the bat, they are greeted by the Crandalls and welcomed to the neighborhood. And you can kind of tell right away that Judd is a little more attuned to things in this town than maybe most people are. And that's all I'm going to say right now because I don't want to talk spoilers at this point. But there are things that happen that he is right in the middle of. And so everything is going well. The family's getting settled in. Lewis has his first day at the school. And right away, something major happens. There's a huge medical emergency, and the story just kicks off with a bang. This is a really well-paced novel by Stephen King, and it's one of his shorter ones. You know, it's around 500 to 600 pages. It's not a long book by any means, and I think that's good by Stephen King standards because he tells a much better story when his books are shorter, in my personal opinion. From my own experience, I just am overwhelmed by the amount of information that he puts in his longer books that I just don't feel is necessary. But this was a very, very well-written book, really engaging, well-paced, as I said, and The horror aspects of it are definitely horrific. It does involve the pet cemetery that is in the name, but the pet cemetery name is kind of a misnomer because even though the primary focal point of the story is close to the pet cemetery, it's not necessarily in the pet cemetery itself. It's rather adjacent to it. And it does involve Native American spiritualities and superstitions of the people that are living in the area now. So there's a lot of that goes into this. And even though you might think it's superstition, it's very clear that it's not really superstition. So I just want to make that clear. It is in the neighborhood of the pet cemetery, but the pet cemetery is not the focal point of the things that are going on in this town. The characters are very well written. I absolutely loved learning about Lewis and his family. I think I enjoyed his wife Rachel a little bit more, and Ellie as well, his young daughter. She's 5 years old at the time we start the story. And I really feel like he did a good job at fleshing out their characters and making you really feel the tension and the weight of emotions that they are dealing with as things begin to happen. We don't really get to know Gage a whole lot. We get to know him a little bit, but his story changes as things go on. He was a very well-written character, but I don't feel like we got to know him a whole lot as we did with some of the others. And Lewis was a great character, but really for me, Rachel and Ellie were excellent characters. I really enjoyed Judd and his wife Norma as well. They're great. All the characters in the story were very well written and felt like they had a significant part to play in the story, even the side characters that you don't see very much. So the characters were very well done. And yes, it's a horror novel, but it's more a novel about grief. And how we deal with grief is the overarching theme in this book. There are painful moments, especially if you are a parent, especially a parent of young kids. It is going to be a painful read, especially if you're like me, because I get emotionally invested in fictional characters. They are very real to me. And so, that made it a very difficult read. And I had said from the beginning that I reserved the right to DNF it, but I didn't. I didn't DNF it. I finished the book, and I'm very, very glad I did. And I will say that one of Stephen King's signature moves is that he will spoil his books. He will spoil some of the things that are coming next. And that pisses off a lot of Stephen King readers that he does that, and I can see why. But I think in a book like this, it is probably a good thing for the things he spoiled, because it gives you time to prepare yourself. It gave me time to prepare myself for what was coming. It just didn't happen all of a sudden and rip my heart out, So I think that was a good thing, but I can see why it upsets Stephen King fans. It makes complete sense. And I've read other books by Stephen King where he spoiled stuff. I'm like, dude, why did you do that? There are other books of his where he's done that and it's ticked me off. But with this one, I'm kind of glad that he spoiled things ahead of time, because you really do need to mentally prepare. There are two specific things that he spoils, and the second one especially, you need some time to prepare. So maybe the spoiling is not necessarily a bad thing. So That's the core of what I want to talk about in this book. Be prepared for discussions about grief, discussions about death. One of the characters in the book has a very hard time talking about death or even acknowledging that death is a reality because of traumatic events in their life. And as the story goes on, those traumatic events do get aired and talked about. So be prepared. Overall, I thought it was a great book, and I'm really glad I read it. I would not read it again, but I am very glad I read it. So now we're going to move to the spoilers, okay? We're going to move to full spoilers because I want to talk about a few things that happen in the book. So if you have not read the book and you don't want spoilers, now would be the time to step away or skip to the end if you want to see my rating. Now's your cue. All right, so spoilers. As I said, this book picked up right away. We just get thrown into it within the first chunk of the story with Victor Pascal dying, coming in from the horrific accident he was in, and it was bone-chilling hearing whatever was talking through him to Dr. Creed. Just, I mean, you can picture it. And the movie kind of does a pretty good job of giving you the weight of that moment, but you really feel like there's just this dark entity speaking through him, or something, some kind of spirit warning him in any case, because Victor is clearly dead, right? But somehow his brain is still active, and whatever entity or entities are residing in this town, they are speaking through him to warn Dr. Creed. And then, of course, Dr. Creed has the sleepwalking episode, follows Victor Pascal, and Victor kind of tells him some things and warns him of some things. That part was really wild, especially when he wakes up in his bed like it was just a dream, but he's got the dirt on his feet, and it's like, oh my gosh. So it was real, and that was rough, but it was exciting as well in a way. Like you're just thrown into it right away, and all the horrific events that transpire as a result of that. One of the things that I mentioned earlier that Stephen King spoiled, of course, was Norma's death. He talked about how she wouldn't have but like 10 more weeks to live or something like that, several chapters before she actually died. And so that was heart-wrenching, but at the same time, it made sense. She's older, and has her health issues and such. So, and Judd, I think, kind of knew that she didn't have long. I just get that sense of Judd that he just knows things. And that we talk about, if you've read The Shining doesn't just happen in The Shining. There are other characters throughout the Kingiverse that have that sixth sense, that have that clairvoyance and foreknowledge and premonitions and things like that. And I definitely think Judd is one of those. Judd definitely has that special gift. I think Ellie does as well, and possibly Lewis as well. I mean, he did see Victor Pascal when probably nobody else would see Victor Pascal. So I think several characters in this book have the shine. But yeah, that was really interesting to see how everything came about, even though Stephen King kind of spoiled it for Norma. But I really enjoyed Norma and Judd and their interactions with the family. I thought they were great characters, and so I was sad when Norma died. But then the other thing he spoiled, of course, was Gage's death. And in a way, it kind of ticked me off, but in a way, I was really glad because it gave me time to prepare. Although, not much time, but because just a couple of chapters later, we're in the funeral home. And at first, I thought I had maybe missed something. I'm like, okay, did I just skim over something that I didn't actually read? And then I realized, oh no, this is a plot device. He's showing us what's happened, and then he's going to go back and tell the story. So, oh, that was painful, guys. That's where I grabbed the tissue box, okay? As a parent and, having had young kids myself and just, loving my kids to death and not ever wanting anything to happen to them. And then, that was rough. That was rough. One highlight of the funeral, if there was a highlight, was the old man getting his, the father-in-law, just finally getting what was coming to him because he was an ass. Just, there's no way to sugarcoat that. He deserved every licking he got. So I was very happy to see that. The death of the cat and the way the cat came back, Winston Churchill, that was freaky. I was not quite sure what would happen. I mean, I had a feeling the cat would die. But the way he came back, it's like everybody that comes back in this story seems to be possessed of that, the Wendigo, the Native American demon spirit. And that was just all of the characters that came back. Not only Church, but Gage. And then that whole thing with Gage was just, oh, the way he came back and grabbed the scalpel out of his dad's bag and everything, that was something else. I will say that the ending of the book was weird. Because, I mean, it just ends. And I like books that do that. I'm not bothered by them. But it just leaves so many possibilities open. And you sit there at the end of the book and, Rachel walks in because Gage killed Rachel. And, of course, Lewis does it again. He just takes Rachel back to the graveyard and now she's alive. And it just ends with her saying, "Hello, darling." And you're left to wonder, oh, okay, what happens? Does she kill Lewis? Do they call the mother and father-in-law back and have them bring Ellie, and then they all get killed and get taken back to the graveyard, and then all of a sudden he's just got a whole family of zombies? Like, I don't know. There are so many possibilities. Either that or Ellie just spends the rest of her life in an institution from all the trauma, especially the mental and emotional trauma from having the shine. I think she has the shine. She obviously knew that things were going to happen, and she obviously had dreams about it. So there are so many possibilities of how this book could have ended. I just feel bad because there is no closure for Ellie in the book. And that kind of bothered me. I mean, it's definitely sad that, that Gage died and Rachel was killed and Judd was killed and Lewis burned the house down and everything like that. And he finally killed Church again and just got rid of them. But now he's brought Rachel back. That's all really sad and very emotional. But I can't help just feeling real sorrow for Ellie. And if the mother and father-in-law are still alive, I mean, who knows? We'll never know. But, they're raising their granddaughter and trying to take care of her emotionally and everything. And there are so many loose threads that just were not tied up. And I have to think that that was intentional. But, oh boy, I wish we would have gotten some answers. But I guess that's where your imagination takes over and you get creative and you get to think to yourself, okay, how would I have ended it? What would I have had happen? So I guess it's good in that sense. Stephen King, in the foreword, he talks about how possibly he went too far with this book. And he had shoved it in a drawer and he just wasn't sure if he'd gone too far. And I think he probably did go a little too far. I don't know. It was rough. But it was a good book. I'm glad I read it. And let's move on and talk about the movie now. We're moving on to the movie. The movie was okay. I watched the 1989 version. It was a good adaptation. It was pretty faithful to the book. They embellished a few things. They combined a couple of characters. Missy Dandridge and Norma got combined, and Missy Dandridge hangs herself because she can't deal with the pain of her health issues, and that whole thing was weird because Missy Dandridge was still around in the later parts of the book, and Norma just wasn't there. You know, Judd was, I don't know if he had ever been married. It's never brought up that he was married or that his wife had died. She just didn't exist in the movie version, but that's okay. They really played up the evil possession of Gage after he came back to life. I don't know. That was so like his laughing, and he's like, "Come play with me, Daddy. I want to play with you now." Like that. I mean, it was creepy. It was really, really good creepy. But I don't know. It's not a movie I'd watch again. But I appreciated that they were pretty good at adapting Stephen King's book. I haven't seen the newer adaptation of it, and I'm not going to because I've heard all the changes they make in that one, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. I've seen One Pet Cemetery movie. It was fine. I can move on now. So, yeah, I liked the casting overall. I thought the characters were cast pretty well, especially Victor Pascal. I mean, he was cast quite well. That actor killed that role. No, figuratively. He killed that role. Yeah, they all did a great job, I think. One thing that I thought was really weird is in the movie, Rachel, at some point, I think, can also see Victor Pascal. So not just Gage and not just Ellie, and well, I think Gage probably could have too, but Ellie and Lewis could see Victor Pascal. But then at the end, it kind of felt like Rachel could as well, and I'm like, yeah, that didn't happen in the book, but it's okay. The changes they made were slight, but they weren't inappropriate, I don't think. You know, sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, oh, that was an inappropriate change. I don't think it was an inappropriate change. I just don't think it needed to be there, but whatever. It's cool. I really liked what they did with the Native American graveyard. That was cool. Being able to visualize it after having read about it in the book, that was impressive. I liked the way they pulled that off. Although I expected a lot more darkness and mist and just like this creepy forest surrounding it. And they didn't really do that. So that was kind of weird. But anyway, overall, I really liked the movie. And I thought they did a good job. But yeah, I wouldn't watch it again. Just like I wouldn't read the book again. All right, so let's get to my final ratings. Okay, we're going to talk about the book first and then the movie. I give the book a solid thumbs up, maybe even a 2 thumbs up. I gave it a 4 stars on Goodreads because I thought it was excellently written. The character development was done very well. It was a really engaging story. I just really got into the book. But the pain and devastation of some of the things that happened, and especially the open ending where we didn't really get any closure, I didn't feel, at least for certain characters, that kind of brought it down for me. So I think, even though it was painful to read, I think it could have been a 5-star read if there hadn't been a few things that were kind of off for me. The movie, I would give a thumbs up as well. It was well done, but it definitely was not as good as the book. And that's the case with most adaptations, right? They're never going to be as good as the book. There's a few exceptions, but overall, the book is always better. And that is definitely the case here. So I highly recommend at least reading Pet Sematary once and watching the movie once if you have not. And I hope you've enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. Make sure to check out other videos of mine on the end screen here at the end. And until next time, make sure you're reading more books. I will talk with you soon.